Welcome to MagicGatheringStrat. It's time to think about Magic 2014 Limited again. And the first card we're going to think about is Ratchet Bomb. I checked LC's review from Scars of Mirrodin and it said don't mistake this for a bomb. And that's probably quite well. It is a useful card and it can sometimes be good. But he said it was a 5th to 7th pick, 3.0 grade. And I think I agree. So then the question is, Garruk, Caller of Beasts. Who is this dude and why? How good is he? First, it's the Planeswalker for 6. We can reveal the top 5 cards of the library. Put all creatures card revealed this way into your hand. This is the +1 ability. So in an average limited deck, if you have 15 creatures, you're gonna get 2 to 3 of them into your hand every turn. You can play them for if you're -3, but you have 6 mana, so you... Wow. And you get an emblem saying that whenever you cast a creature spell, you can search your library for a creature card, put it onto the battlefield and shuffle your library. Well, the safe assumption here is probably this is just a crazy bomb. Perhaps not as good as the Garruk we used to know. But my basic assumption on a Planeswalker is that he is a bomb. And this guy looks like a bomb. So it probably is a bomb. You could make an argument for M14 being really fast, but I don't think it is. I think it's actually somewhat slower than M13. So let's look at this. I'm writing the review at the same time as I'm talking to you. So Garruk, Caller of Beasts. He can't protect himself, but you only need to use him once to get a lot of value. So I'm assuming he's a bomb. If he's not, please argue why, and we'll adjust it. But he looks better than Liliana, and Liliana is very, very close to a super good card, and she's the worst Planeswalker in 13. We already reviewed the Colossal Whale, haven't we? Let's look for it. Oh, we haven't. 7 mana makes me tune out a little bit. It's quite a lot. So the effect is strong. Colossal Whale. Island Walks makes this card big bomb in control mirrors, but not better than the Serpent thing, Harbor Serpent in M13 that you did play in control mirrors. But you attack him and you can exile target creature, so he's not often blocked. But if the opponent has like a couple of ground creatures, he's gonna block this guy. And almost nothing is happening. Very expensive. Can not break through ground stalls. Will win a race against any blue deck. But he's not close to Stormtide Leviathan, is he? I'm not excited. Is the format this slow? Can you really wait for this guy? I think he is close to unplayable. Maybe 7th and 9th pick. Correct me if I'm wrong. The speed of the format will decide a lot here. Already talked about these guys. And we have to go down till we find Ring Flash. If you look through my Modern Masters review, please comment on the grades given. It would be nice to have feedback. I know I reviewed it in a vacuum without seeing the synergies, but we didn't know all the cards, and we don't know all the cards of M13. Here is Ring Flash. We are going to proceed. Chandra's Outrage. That card has been printed several times before. So let's look at Magic 2012 Limited Review Red. What people said about Chandra's Outrage. Financial value. We don't want that. Okay. No good links. Chandra's Outrage. 4 damage to target creature for 4. At instant speed for 4 mana. And the 2 damage to the creature controller is a nice bonus. This is like not the worst removal, not the best. I'm not first picking this, but I'm not 7th picking it either. Writing while I speak, that's why I sound distracted. Chandra's Outrage. Absolutely less splashable. Yeah. Hi, Belangiao. Thanks for checking in. I am not very good at RTR block draft, so I don't know how high you pick Punish the Enemy. But this looks like a higher pick than Chandra's Fury, which was a very playable card in M13. But that could be splashed as well. I'm thinking like 3rd to 5th pick for a card like Chandra's Outrage. 4 damage at instant speed is very often exactly what you want. And the 2 damage to creature control is almost insignificant, but a nice bonus. So we are placing it at the 3rd to 5th pick level. Can adjust that later, but if the format behaves as M13, this would be very playable. Goblin Shortcutter. When Goblin Shortcutter enters the battlefield, target creature can't block this turn. That's definitely playable. Being a Goblin Piker is something I would rate as sometimes a 23rd card in some decks. But this guy is better than that. He's still pretty aggressive though. And you probably don't want him in your defensive decks. But how much bonus is this ability? Does it make him as playable as a bear? I still haven't seen a lot of removal that kills 1 toughness guys. Like there was in M13. You always had to consider Cowering Fear and Chandra's Fury. We don't yet know what the situation is in M14. So how do we rate this? I'm thinking bear level in somewhat aggressive decks. And that's a 6th to 8th pick. But it depends on the ability to... Yeah, a 6th to 8th pick is a solid 2-drop, so you probably need it for your curve. You want to play it, but you won't be happy for it. We know Dragon Hatchling pretty well from the last core set, and it's utter crap. You don't want to play this. And you'll be really sad. Especially if the rings are not in M14. And I don't think they are. Because the rings were pretty much... Dragon Hatchling is not highly valuable in a red deck win thing. In a red deck win... you mean the shortcutter? Okay, yeah. I think there is usually a red-black, very aggressive deck in core set. And that deck will want the shortcutter. But it won't still be... It still won't be a very high pick. It will be something you pick up. But the Dragon Hatchling is close to unplayable. A 10th to 12th pick, perhaps. If you have this card in your deck, you are doing something wrong. Almost even in mono red. Lava Axe. Brian Wong made a very interesting argument in Limited Resources 184 perhaps about the Lava Axe from Onslaught that did 7 damage for 7 mana, and that card was actually quite playable, even more playable than Lava Axe, because the opponent didn't know they only had 13 lives in the game, and you could play knowing that, and that gave you an advantage. But Lava Axe doesn't do enough to give you that advantage, and I think Lava Axe is a very bad limited card. I do actually have a review from it, a review of it from 8th edition, and I'm probably gonna use it again. Place it as a 9th to 11th pick, because even in aggressive decks you will hate Lava Axe some of the time, because you will be sitting with Lava Axe in your hand and all you needed was a creature, but you didn't get a creature, so you lost. Because it is only good if you're winning the game. Yeah, I think it's a fairly well evaluated card at this time. We are moving over to Volcanic Geyser. Are you seeing everything properly? Yes. Volcanic Geyser was in M13. It's a non-splashable X-Spell. It's very much a 2nd to 4th pick because it commits you to red. You'll sometimes first pick it and not play it, and that's something you want to avoid. So first pick, first pack, I'm looking to take another card, then Volcanic Geyser. If I'm red, I'm of course very, very happy for this card, but I'm not first picking it if I can avoid it. And you'll often get Volcanic Geysers quite late, but red was, it wasn't a super weak color in 13, but it was definitely underdrafted, so you could get Volcanic Geysers really late. Okay, Pitchburn Devils. I didn't play in Innistrad, so I don't know how to rate this. But let's check it out. This is an Innistrad card, right? I'm not making this up, I hope. Let's check it out. Pitchburn Devils. Yep. Innistrad limited review red. LSV, my favorite reviewer. Let's check what he's going to say about Pitchburn Devils. Never has a 2-for-1 been so easy. All you have to do is cast this, and your job is basically done. Tree is big enough to trade for just about anything, letting the devils pitch themselves as another hapless target. If you had the misfortune to play against green, or let white flip Throb and Sentry, You can even set it for getting just one card and trade away both halves of the devil. I like this card and anticipate it going later than it should because 3 trees for 5 always seem dorky. Yeah. Sounds good to me. We are taking it at the 5th to 7th pick level. And moving over to Thunderstrike. +2 +0. This is not a reprinted card. And it looks terrible. Oh, 2011. Thunderstrike. $2.5. Can you see this properly? Yes. Thunderstrike. And I'd say it's the 7th to 9th pick. You should play it, you could play it, but you will definitely not be happy for a mediocre card like this. And you will really hate when it doesn't boost your toughness. Act of Treason, they're just rotating the steel crap. What was the name of the card in M13? Act of Treason. Magic 2011. Really low rating, but it often doesn't do anything, and you don't have battalion to do anything with, and the slivers won't like this at all. So it's probably unplayable almost, an 11th to 13th pick perhaps. And Canyon Minotaur, good old Canyon Minotaur. So 6th to 8th pick, a hill giant is just what you need perhaps. Was the 12th best red common in M13. Ah, Fog! We know Fog. We know we want to play against people that play Fog in limited. It is a mediocre sideboard card at best. And it's an 11th to 13th pick. Brindlebore was printed before. In that set again. So let's look for the green review and see what people thought about Brindlebore. The card is Brindlebore. There it is. Oh, LSV hated it. Because it's a Grey Ogre, which is a very good reason to hate any limited creature. And the ability just doesn't do enough. This guy clearly isn't a beat or anything. But buy your time against the Vicious. Overall a very boring card. If they're very aggressive, feel free to bring the boar and avoid it otherwise. So it's a sideboard card against aggressive decks, and that makes it a 9th to 11th pick. Deadly Recluse is back! It's a 4th to 6th pick actually. And he just does really good things. You always want him in your limited deck. He has seen extensive play in Standard Pauper actually. He's done a lot of work. Rootwalla. He's a Grey Ogre. But he's a Grey Ogre with an upside that is bigger than the Brindle Boars. But is it enough to be playable? 9th edition, 10th edition. Oh, I have it in 9th edition then. So let's look at my old 9th edition review from the Viking Age. Rootwalla. What the hell? It has him as a 3rd to 5th pick. That sounds insane. Is he that good? Threat of activation is there, of course, but that's just a buzzword. No, it isn't. Nothing has changed since Tempest Block, when these guys are very popular for almost always getting through unblocked and become a consistent 4/4 powerhouse. Well, it's like that, oh, what's his name? The guy from Dragon's Maze. That was a 2/2 and could be pumped. I doubt he's a 35th pick. He can't be that. I think time has caught up to him, and I'm putting him at a 4th to 6th pick, one lower than in 9th. As creatures are just simply better now. So let's look for more M14 cards. I'm using mythicspoiler.com for the review, because it's just pretty. And here are some more M14 cards. Opportunity. If your opponent resolves Opportunity, you are in so much trouble. But it costs 6 mana and do nothing for the board. So how well does this card play? 7th edition, yeah, I was around at that time too. Magic was plenty slower. And I think we have overrated this card a lot. But my 7th edition review sucks. But 4 cards is so many cards. So if you untap after resolving Opportunity, you are doing well. But how well? There's nobody online at this time. Otherwise I would ask you guys what you thought, but you're not here. If you untap after resolving this, you are probably winning. Does nothing the turn it is cast, and costs 6 mana. So I'm reasonably placing this as a 4th to 6th pick. And I think it is better than Divination, but it's an instant as well. It's a lot better than Divination, but the 4th to 6th pick is a lot better than Divination. Might be higher. Lay of the Land. Apocalypse. It is so far from rampant growth because it doesn't accelerate you. And I think this is just not good enough. If there is a 5-color green deck, well, that guy could have all the lay of the land, or the lays of the land. I don't speak good English. I'm Swedish, so I don't really know English. Lay of the Land. The effect is not worth card. It is so much worse than Rampant Growth. Just play the land to begin with. So I am thinking this is a 10th to 12th pick and close to unplayable unless there is a 5-color deck. But why would there be? Burning Earth. Well, I can rate that card. Even if there was a broken non-basic land that people wanted to tap to do something nasty in this format, they could go well ahead and tap it. But it is also one of the enablers for the... Well, this card will probably be valuable because it's one of the enablers with Chandra's Phoenix for a mono red. Really, oh, it costs 4. That's a lot. But in limited, it's unplayable. Elvish Mystic. Well, I have the feeling that we've seen this guy before. And we know Llanowar Elf, and we do love Llanowar Elf. Llanowar Elf was not in 8th edition. Was it in 9th? Oh, we can pretty much look at Arbor Elf. Because the difference is not huge. Elvish Mystic. It is so fantastic to have this in your starting hand. It really is not doing a lot. Any other stage in the game. But it's still a 3rd to 5th pick, I feel. Because you will be playing your awesome green stuff earlier than your opponent. Maybe it is lower than a 3rd to 5th pick. Undead Minotaur, what the... That's very unexciting. Very unexciting. I wish it was just a bear. A 2/3 for 3 is playable, but barely. Silent Blood, Vampire Knight, okay. Undead Minotaur. Very God. So, very unexciting. For some reason, Word is formatting this crazy. Very unexciting. Have I said that it's very unexciting? And I think it's a 7th and 9th pick. That is, you can play this as your 23rd card, but you will not be happy. Doomblade. Well, they're not giving us the hard cards. Doomblade is splashable. That means everybody is going to pick the Doomblades. So Doomblade is pretty much as good as removal gets. It's the 1st to 3rd pick. And you are happy first picking it as you can splash it. So it's not as committing as Murder, but the drawback is significant compared to Murder, making it exactly as good as Murder, a 1st to 3rd pick. That is not true for Shock. Doing just 2 damage is a drawback. I'm writing off screen because I got the feedback that writing on screen concealed the card too much. So I'm right now looking for the spot to put my Shock review in. I'm writing an article for mtgostrat.com on this set. We know Shock, we've seen it before. I can't really pronounce it because of my Swedish nature, but it is definitely a 2nd to 4th pick and quality removal. It depends a bit on what kind of toughness creatures have here, but I don't assume that it'll be very different from M13, and Shock is definitely a lot worse than Searing Spear was. Because doing 3 damage is very nice. Sarah Angel, yeah, 1st pick. But now we are seeing cards again that we have already reviewed, I think. So let's look for Cog Sickness. I think Cog Sickness was one of the enablers for the... no, we just talked about it. It's one of the enablers for the Auramancer deck, if there is such a thing. Auramancing this guy, this enchantment would be very, very nice. Oh, it's not in the review document yet. Cog Sickness. If you can get the mono black corrupt deck, this is going to be so sweet. But if you're not mono black, you're casting this. Turn 3 for 1 or 2, turn 4 for 2 or 3. And you can even cast it in advance and then play the swamps next turn. So I think this is really good. And I would pick it highly, maybe at the 3rd to 5th pick level. And of course it's a 1st pick if you are mono black. Giant Growth. Also pretty well analyzed card this time. But we don't have it in the document yet. And I'm gonna take the review from 9th edition, which I think had Giant Growth and that I now have open. It actually says that Giant Growth is 3rd to 5th pick, but I think that is way too high to pick Giant Growth there. Maybe it's a 4th to 6th pick. As combat tricks come, they are Giant Growth is as good as it gets almost. But it is still a conditional card. But costing 1 mana is really good for Combat Trick, because it is so easy to leave it open. Is it as high as a 3rd to 5th pick? I didn't play a lot of Return to Ravnica, but I'm sure it will perform similar to what it did there. So let's move on. Flames of the Firebrand was a candidate for the best uncommon in M13 together with Talon's Invocation and Vampire Nighthawk. I won so many games of Flames of the Firebrand that I can't count them all, and I assume it will just be another first pick in M14. Divination, also a known quantity, not the card you want to cast on your 3rd turn. If you're casting Divination on your 3rd turn, you're doing something wrong and giving up a very important tempo turn. It's a 5th to 7th pick, and you'll probably be playing it on turn 6 or thereabouts. So nothing exciting there. Let's move on to the Griffin Sentinel. 1/3 flyer for 3 is very, very unexciting. This guy has Vigilance, and I have trouble rating him. If there was a white ring in this format, I would like this guy better. But looking at him now, he just makes me sad. I don't want to put this guy in my deck. What will I be blocking? I will be blocking non-green creatures, because the green creatures will be too strong probably. I want him to be Griffin Protector, but he's not. He's not gonna win the game for me in my blue-white flyers deck. He's just a blocker that can only block small guys. One power is a big drawback, and that means that the Vigilance isn't very important either. He might be an engine for that enchantment deck, if there is such a thing. I didn't play in Magic 2012, but I hear Auramancer did really disappointing there. But if there is an enchantment deck, this goes up in value. But otherwise, I don't desire this card, and I think it's a 7th to 9th pick. It's a card most people put in as a 23rd card. Elixir of Immortality is a mulligan. I won so many games of M13 when my opponent plays this card and don't realize that it's a 15th pick. It's horrible. It was a decent sideboard card against Sands of Delirium, but it wasn't good enough to be a decent sideboard card against Jace. And it just sucks, and I always pass it. So let's move on to Aquarius Shield. Why are they giving us this? Is there an artifact deck? Is there like affinity in this format? Why would we want this? This is a skill tester, I feel, and it's a really bad card. It's of course really nice if you have a Serra Angel and then you put, no, not a Serra Angel, if you have a giant creature and then you put this on. But aren't you better off with another giant creature or another creature that can do the blocking instead of this? If you're playing against red or a deck with a red basis for removal, then this is of course better. And that would put it at as an 8th to 10th pick, which I think this card is. Not exciting. Coral Merfolk though does pretty much what you want in blue. It provides a blocker, a clock, and a curve filler that you really want. And this is so much better than Merfolk of the Pearl Trident. Glad to see this guy again. Having said that, you are going to get all the Coral Merfolks you want. Curve filler, blocker, clock, everything you want in a 23rd card. And it's probably as good as a bear in blue actually, because blue doesn't get bears. So I'm saying it's a 6th to 8th pick. And we're moving on. I don't know if there are any more M14 cards, but we'll find out as we move down into the spoiler. Modern Masters. We already done the slivers, of course. My god, we haven't talked about them at all. Here's Bone Scythe Sliver. 4 mana for 2/2 with double strike. So it's a 4/2, which is decent in itself, but then granting everybody double strike. That sounds very, very strong. The question is, what colors will the sliver deck be? Are all the slivers in... There are green slivers, there are red slivers, but are there black and blue slivers? I don't think there are. But this guy is a high pick, still a 2/2 for 4, but he trades very well. I'm saying he's a 3rd to 5th pick. And of course he doesn't stack, but you are going to pick this highly if you are... Oh, it's a rare. Yeah. 3rd to 5th pick. Is he even higher? Well, giving all your slivers first strike is really strong. I'm putting it at the 2nd to 4th pick. It's maybe even a bomb. And I wouldn't be sad first picking this and going slivers. So let's look at more cards. Oh, here are the dreaded staffs. But first, the Scourge of Alkas. We have not reviewed him before. So we need to move to the red cards. Click. Scourge of Valkas. Well, something is telling me that this guy is strong, but his casting cost is excessive. And we should treat him as a 6-drop. At least. And of course you will love him in your mono-red deck, but if you're mono-red you probably have other problems. He deals 1 damage to a creature or player. Well, that's cute, and some of the time it will matter. He's super hard to cast. He will probably attack on turn. If you cast him for 6 mana, he will on the average come out on turn 7. He will attack on turn 8. You can pump him for 3. Very expensive. Count him as a 6-drop in a 2-color deck. But you will still be happy for this guy when you cast him. So I'm saying he's a 2nd to 4th pick, but he's definitely not a bomb. But this guy is a bomb. Windreader Swings. You are playing this creature for 7 mana. And compared to the swings in M13 that wasn't a bomb but was very close to one, this guy is really good when you attack. His ability has kind of haste, so you can break parity. If you have like barely profitable attacks, you will get a lot of cards. He blocks anything with his 7, but he can't be killed by damage. I think this is a bomb. I want to be playing Wind Reader swings all day. And given the synergies with flying that are in this set compared to M13, I think this is, and especially you can cast cheaper, flyer cards cheaper, I think this is a first pick. You should first pick this card and look to go flyers and never look back. And I'm saying he's better than the M13 swings. Wind Reader swings. Good in all phases of the game. I imagine having a stalemate and like 3 flyers against his 3 flyers, and then you cast this, and then the game just goes insane from there. Yeah, it's a bomb. And the staffs are just sad. They try so hard. Now they cost 3. Wow, if they cost 1, they would be really bad. But they cost 3. Yeah, break them if you can, but no. They are just depressing. So staff of XXX. That sounds like a very interesting card to play. They are unplayable. I don't want them even against aggressive decks. Even if I'm red and my opponent is red. If we're both mono red and he's an aggressive deck, I think I'm better off just playing another creature, even in that situation. So let's pass this on and skill test our opponents. And move over to the Megantic Sliver. Is there even a word that says that is Megantic? No. This looks crazy. Its effect is similar to that enchantment from Return to Ravnica. But this comes attached to 6/6 creature. And I think I'm picking this guy. I'm first picking him, going slivers, and yeah, then I'm winning some packs. This guy looks crazy good actually. And 6 mana will probably stop him from being on the constructed scene. But in limited, this is exactly what I want to be doing. Casting a 6/6 for 6 is good in itself. But if you have any other slivers, this goes crazy. Imagine having 2 slivers in play, then this is 12 power for 6 mana. And I'm saying he is a bomb. I think slivers can't get flying in this set, and maybe the flyer deck is the counter deck to the sliver deck, but in my sliver deck I want Megantic Sliver. I have no idea why he's foil here in the review. But I'm picking him all day. Here's Ratchet Bomb and Colossal Whale, and I have no idea why they were spoiled again yesterday. Yeah, Dark Confidant, that's awesome. Hive Stirrings and Goblin Diplomats. Goblin Diplomats. It's a Goblin Piker, which makes it playable in itself. But that effect is really strong. He's a Nettle Imp. Was that the name of the card? But he applies to all your opponent's creatures that have to attack. If you're losing the game, this guy is not helping. But if you're winning, he is helping. Because he can make all your opponent's creature attack, so you can attack. If you're at parity, you will break parity because your opponent will be forced to do a crazy bad attack. I think this is a really strong card. And you're happy playing it on turn 2. I'm thinking it's a 3rd to 5th pick, and it could be higher. Hive Stirrings, well, 2 Sliver tokens and then Megantic Sliver. Yeah, now we're talking. But if you don't have Megantic Sliver, getting Krenko's Command at 1 extra mana. Well, this is obviously a very deck-specific card, and you don't want to be playing it. It's almost unplayable if you're not Slivers. It is unplayable if you're not Slivers. But how high do you pick this if you are Slivers? It's not like you're getting any abilities, but you are getting extra bodies that are improving. I think it's better than Captain's Call. A 4th to 6th pick in Slivers is what I guess. Predator Sliver is common, so you will always have Predator Sliver. Predator Sliver might be your argument for going into Slivers. And if you're Slivers, you will want this card, but you will probably not pick it. There's a lot of stuff you'll pick over it. I think 4th to 6 is reasonable for the Slivers deck. Vial of Poison. Well, we've seen the Death Touch granting instant in M13. We're not impressed. And we are not impressed by this card. Vial of Poison is poison for the people drafting it. Unless you can recur it, but there is nothing that jumps out to me and says we can recur it. If you can think of a combo with Vial of Poison, there is no pinger in this set. I haven't seen a pinger yet, but a pinger is very likely in the set, as there was no pinger in 13, and they like pingers in core sets. If there is a pinger, this increases somewhat in value, but I still think it's almost unplayable, like the green card from M13, saying it's an 11th to 13th pick. It's a very, very, very conditional removal. And it doesn't even... No, it's worse. Unless you can combo it with something, and then you know that you want it. There's another staff. And here is a skill testing card. Sliver Construct. We just said that we really wanted 2 1/1s. But the 2 1/1s are getting the Slivers effect twice. So this card must be worse. How much worse? Being a Grey Ogre is almost unplayable. And we're not getting any benefits from our opponent's slivers, like in the good old days. So I think this is unplayable if you're not slivers. And that means you are getting this if you are slivers. And how high do you want it? I think you want it as a 6th to 8th pick. If you're slivers, like a bear pretty much. Because you're not getting any of the benefits of the 2/1/1s. But if you can play this 3 turns before playing Megantic Sliver, but then again you can argue that a Megantic Sliver makes any card good, or any sliver card at least. Ring of 3 Wishes. 10 mana to find the card. This reminds me of Diabolic Revelation, but it seems so much lower than Diabolic Revelation. But in a controlish deck, this is better than Giant Tome, I would say. How much better? Barely playable in a controlish deck. Increases in value if you have 1 or more insane bombs. But it's very, very slow. But John Laux taught me that Diabolic Revelation was playable. Barely in M13. And I think this is a 7th and 9th pick. You're probably better off playing a lot of cards over Ring of 3 Wishes. I've listened to a set review of this set actually. At about this basis. I think it was just another Magic podcast. They were really excited about Guardian of the Ages. And of course Guardian of the Ages gives non-green decks a fat guy. But it is very similar to the Worm in M13, and I almost never played him in draft. And I did extremely well in M13. It's my best draft format ever. So I think I know what I'm doing in M13. And I would not be excited about this card in a green deck. But maybe Guardian of the Ages is a card that protects you against green. And if M14 is a lot slower than M13, then this card is useful. But I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say this is unplayable in green and pretty bad in non-green. And I'm saying it's a 7th and 9th pick. 7 mana is so much, even in core set constructed, that you want a card that, imagine if you're winning, then this card does nothing. And that's very hard. Actually, most cards does something when you're winning, but this card doesn't. And if your opponent has evasion, then this card does nothing. It's just sad. And what the hell is this? Woodborne Behemoth. This is a strong card. And it's one of those cards that when it comes out on time, you're happy about it. Having a 4/4 for 5 is not bad. But then it gets insane, and you will often end up in situations where you have 8 lands. But you don't have to have 8 lands to play this. And that makes it very different from other 8 drops. And you're not even paying 8. This is one of the stronger cards in the set. Though it is a vanilla creature. A French vanilla creature, as it has trample. But it will defend you, it will really crush your opponent. It is so much better than Guardian of the Ages. Getting to 8 mana and getting a bonus. It's very different from paying 8 mana. I am playing my Woodborne Behemoth. He's an uncommon too. I'm putting it as a second to fourth pick, but he might very well be a first pick. But I'm thinking I'd rather play Rancor than this guy. Moving on. Spore Mound. It's a lot of work required here. You get a 3/3. And then you cast a land, say, every 2/5 of a turn. 40% of every turn after this, you play a land. And that means that you will on the average spend 4-5 turns until you have a 5/5 for 5. That's not very good. Spore Mound is disappointing unless you can somehow break this. If there's a combo in the set. You have to spend 5 turns to make this 5/5 for 5. And that means that it's a very bad card. I'm saying it's an 8th to 10th pick perhaps. Look at the difference between the Spore Mound and a Woodborne Behemoth. They do very different things. Savage Summoning. This is gonna get a lot of people excited. And the secret to this card is that it is not worth a card. It could be a sideboard card against control deck, but you have spent a card. But you can cast it in response to the counterspells. It's a counter spell. And then you get that +1/+1 counter. But we know that +1/+1 counters are not worth a card. So it's a sideboard card against counter-heavy control decks, maybe. Well, because what if they don't have any counterspells in their hand? Then this is just gonna sit around, do nothing, and you will wish that it was a creature, even a land. It's really bad. And I'm saying it's a 10th to 12th pick in limited. Rumbling Baloth. There's my 4/4 for 4. If you remember the impact of Price the Elephant and the impact of Roaring Primadox in M13, you will know that the 4/4 for 4 is actually more powerful than a 3/3 for 3. So this is exactly what I want to be doing. Rumbling Baloth. 4/4 is very powerful in core set limited. And a card like Imperiosaur would be a first pick in core set limited. This guy is a 2nd to 4th pick. And I play, if you let me, I'll play 23 Rumbling Baloths in my limited deck, and I'll probably win every game. So I'm picking him as the 2nd to 4th pick. Moving on, Primeval Bounty. Okay, this is a do-nothing enchantment for 6 mana. But then it does a whole lot. It's just crazy value for each card you draw. Lands, not too exciting, but non-creature spells, very exciting. But if you're losing and you don't have a creature and then you draw a combat trick, it also does nothing. But that's very, very specific. I think this is a card that people will think is a bomb and will prove not to be a bomb. But it is definitely gonna win some games. It is hard to rate, and it depends a lot on how slow the format is. But imagine you are going to die and you cast this for 6 mana and then you die. That will happen some of the time. How high am I picking Primeval Bounty? I don't want to first pick it. I see this and a Rumbling Baloth in the first pack. I'm gonna take the Baloth. Or the Woodborne Behemoth. I'm thinking this is a 4th to 6th pick. Maybe it's higher. Maybe the format is slow enough for this to be decisive. But it is very grindy, and one of its 3 effects doesn't do a lot. So my guess is 4th to 6th pick level on Primeval Bounty. Oh, Rowan, Into the Wilds. It's not Rowan, is it? Because it does nothing if you find something that is not a land. Into the Wilds. Do nothing enchantment for 4. And we know that 40% of our deck, or somewhat higher than that, are lands. Can you manipulate this somehow? Is there a way to combo with this in the format? There is. It goes up, but otherwise 40% of the time this is gonna draw you a card pretty much. And if you have Primeval Bounty out, it's gonna give you 3 lives. I'm not impressed by Into the Wilds. I think it's much worse than Primeval Bounty, and I think it is way too dirty. The format is not that slow. The Slivers deck are gonna run over you. The blue-white Flyer deck is gonna run over you. Anybody with a decent deck is gonna run over you. Red-black aggressive. I think this is a 7th or 9th pick. I could be wrong. It could be higher. It could be lower. It is a hard card to rate, but earlier cards like this did something as well if there was another card. But Lance, I think this is quite bad. Young Pyromancer. This guy has caused some uproar, and he might have a spot in Constructed. In Limited, he is a Goblin Piker, which makes him playable. It's the 3rd time I've said that today. But then what? You're happy if you have 5 instants or sorcerers in your deck. If you're drafting the Archaeomancer deck, there seems to be much more of a red-blue Archaeomancer deck in this format. There was a red-blue Archaeomancer deck in M13, but that deck seems to be a bigger presence here. And if you have that deck, 1 turn out of 4, you will get the 1/1 creature. And as soon as you get a 1/1 creature, you are getting value out of this guy. And he probably is better than a bear. But it's not better than a beer. I'd rather have a beer than this guy. How much better? I'm picking him as a 4th to 6th pick in the blue-red Archaeomancer deck. And otherwise, maybe a 5th to 7th pick. But definitely not a card that will excite anyone in Limited. And Talran doesn't seem to be around this time. So, Tawncaster Sliver. For 5 mana you get this 2/2 guy. And the ability is just nuts. How happy are we for this? If we spend our turns casting 2/2 guys for 5, it seems we're doing something wrong. I don't know actually. I need more experience playing Sliver decks to know how good this guy is. How many slivers can you realistically get? I honestly do not know how good this guy is. But I'm initially very skeptical to him. We already reviewed the Ogre Battle Driver. He was extremely good in an aggressive deck. And we rate him as a 2nd to 4th pick. Molten Birth. Krenko's Command with an upside. For extra mana. The flip a coin phrase sort of turns me off. And I don't listen anymore. But I think, on the average, as good as Krenko's Command. But no Arms Dealer synergies. That would put it at an 8th to 10th pick. Are there any synergies on this card? I think not. And it's just sad. Though it, yeah, of course it's a sorcery. So you can get an extra 1/1 with your Pyromancer. But I think you're better off playing good sorceries instead of this. If you have the option. Moving on, Marauding Malhorn. Whoa. Hello, Juggernaut. And we know that Juggernaut is a really strong card in Limited. There will be times that this guy is just chump blocked, but he will at least kill something. But some of the time the opponent doesn't have an answer. And Marauding Malhorn will just win. I'm saying it's a 4th to 6th pick. And I think you will be very happy to play your Marauding Malhorns. Rise of the Dark Realms. A 9 mana card. There is a 9 mana card that I used to rate very high. And that was the card in core set that destroyed every creature you didn't own or you didn't control. But in the end, turns out that 9 mana is just too much. And that was close to unplayable. The turn you will get 9 mana is a very, very late turn. And this card doesn't do close enough. It will probably win you the game, but you want to win the game if you cast a card for 7 or 8 mana. Rise of the Dark Realms. You will die from this card. So many times. And I'm saying it's 11th to 13th pick. And the guy who plays the 2/2 for 5 mana will crush you by the time you cast this. But hey, here's something better. Liliana's Reaver. We are not getting the Shade in this set, but this guy is way better than the Shade. Look at him. We're getting 4/3 for 4 in black, which is very exciting in itself. But He has Death Touch. And wow. It looks extremely strong. And it might even be a first pick. I'm putting it at a second to fourth pick. But I would be happy to first pick this. And go black. Wow. Grim Return looks horrible. Is this a reprint? Let's check if it's a reprint to see if... But it is not. And I don't think it's playable. This is a very conditional card. And even if you're playing the like 10 removal red-black deck, you have to cast the removal and this. I think this is a 15th pick. And the engine to some weird combo in Constructed. I don't see me or anyone else playing Grim Return successfully. Jace's Mindseeker. Did we already review this card? Checking. Jace's Mindseeker. Way better than the Jace's guy last time, the Phantasm. To start with, we are paying 6 mana to get a 4/4 flyer. That's very decent. And then this guy comes with a retarded Spell Twine. Your opponent is milled for 5, which will probably not be relevant. But if you can hit an instant or sorcerer here, the value is just crazy. What if you get the removal, then you're 3-for-1ing your opponent. I think I'm first picking him. And I'm happily casting him when the opponent has no cards in hand. Because you're probably winning if you cast a 4/4 flyer and your opponent is out of cards. So the potential for 3-for-1s on top of a very good body makes this a first pick bomb. A 4/4 flyer for 6 is so close to bomb level anyway that this ability. But the question is, what is he holding at this stage again? But you'll be surprised. Remember Mindclaw Shaman? Sometimes he hits stuff. And this Mindclaw Shaman had a horrible body. But this guy does the same thing. But has a higher chance of hitting something as he's taking stuff. He's taking stuff from the library. That's so much better. Yeah, I'm first picking him. Glimpse the future. Well, if the future looks like this, I'm not very excited. Do I want divination over this? You bet. And that means that we are probably 8th to 10th picking this. And we'll probably not see it. People will pick it over this. Ajani's Chosen. They are trying hard to push the enchantment deck. And we already hear that the Theros block is Enchantment Matters. And of course Ajani's Chosen will go well into the constructed decks, but we are not here to review Theros block yet. We are here to review Magic 2014. And is there a deck here or not? Ajani's Chosen. A hill giant for an extra colored mana with an upside. If you cast a pacifist after casting this guy, the value is really good. They're working to make the Auramancer deck playable. But I think this guy is a 4 to 6 pick or higher. Seraph of the Sword. What? Okay, Phantom Monster was the first pickable card in Masters Edition draft. This format is not as slow as Masters Edition, but a 3/3 flyer that ignores combat damage is just a bomb in any world. He will block stuff. He will kill. Yeah. I'd rather have this guy over Sarah any day. Sorry for the drilling sound if you hear it. I'm gonna close my door. I would pretty much first pick a Phantom Monster, even in M14 draft. And of course it dies to Chandra's Outrage, but it doesn't die to Shock. And Searing Spear is not around, so looks solid. There's Hive Stirrings again and Boneside Sliver again. Charging Griffin is a reprint. I think. No, it wasn't. But we won't have a hard time rating this. 2 to fly for 4. Is sad but playable. This upside is there. And he will go into the blue-white flyers deck. He will be a substantial creature in it. He dies to everything. He does not defend you well. I'd rather have Windrake. But it is somewhere in the range of Windrake. I think he's a 4 to 6 pick. Or one higher, which would put him on the level of Windrake. Devout Invocation, which is... I'm gonna carry on for a little while. Devout Invocation. Okay. This is a Winmore card. A really good Winmore card. It costs 7 mana, so let's look at it in the 4 phases of a limited game. If you're casting this on curve, you're probably casting it on turn 10. Because that's about when you have 7 mana. And you have 4 creatures. You get 4 angels. you win the game. If you're winning, you probably want to swing with your creatures instead of casting this, but if you resolve this, you're probably winning. If you're losing, the 4/4 angels will probably be better at blocking than your creatures on the table. If you're at parity, you just win. So this is very often just pay 7 mana, win the game. So I'm saying this is a first to third pick. It's not a bomb because it is somewhat conditional, and the black-red deck will just run you over. But I am gonna first to third pick this. It's a bit similar to Akroma's Memorial. Really just resolve this and eventually win. Awaken the Ancient! What was the name of that green card that made a huge dude in core set? This is better. You set yourself up for 2 for 1 and it costs a lot. Maybe it isn't better, as it actually costs so much. But many a game will be won on the back of Awaken the Ancient. Set yourself up for a 2 for 1. It probably costs 5 or 6 mana to cast realistically. And a 7/7 with haste that costs you 2 cards is still pretty good at turn 6 or 5 or 7. I'm thinking it's a 4 to 6 pick, but I'm definitely not sure. There's another stupid staff. Let's ignore it and see if it goes away. Megantic Sliver shows up again. And this card is just bonkers. What the hell is this? I think they thought that Jace wasn't good enough, so they wanted a card that is better than Jace. But they failed, because this card is not better than Jace. But it is pretty close. This is the Exalted Angel guy of the set. It's just play Gigantic Angel, win game. So we're playing this when we have 5 mana. And if we need to block with this guy, we will still gain life. And we put counters on creatures anyway, so that's really, really good. But if we don't block immediately and die, well, we don't need to think about this a lot. This is a crazy bomb. And we are picking this, going white, winning. So what about Dawnstrike Paladin? A 2/4 for 5. It's very unexciting. That's 1 more than Faithmender. And it doesn't have close to the power of Faithmender. But Faithmender was a bomb. And this guy is not. But how playable is he? I think in a defensive deck, this is what you want to be doing at 5 mana, isn't it? No. You want to play the Archangel of Tune at 5 mana. But if you can't, we'll hold the grind, gain life, and stabilize while your flyers win. And maybe a 4th to 6th pick or better. Depends on how many 5-drops you really want. But even if your opponent is only flyers, he will still be able to attack for 2 and gain you life every turn. So he does do something against evasion creatures as well. I have a hard time rating Masters of Diversion. I wish I played with similar card. But let's try. Master of Diversion. So it's a Grey Ogre to start with. And that makes it almost unplayable. But then we have this effect. It doesn't help you when you're losing, but it does help you when you're attacking. And there was a guy in Gatecrash like this, wasn't there? Who stopped people from blocking. But he didn't have to attack, so he will probably perish. I'm saying he's a 6th to 8th pick, about as good as a bear in an aggressive deck. And unplayable if you are playing a control deck. Hunt the Weak. The world's lousiest prey upon. But it's still creature removal in green at sorcery speed. The prey upon was very, very good. Too good, obviously. But this is not prey upon. You will spend your entire turn doing this. And it seems to be a result. This is one of the ways they cull green. I'm saying it's a 5th to 7th pick, but it's adjustable. Just removing a creature and getting this extra power feels strong, but it's not really what you want to be doing at 4 mana. On the other hand, we had Chandra's Outrage, but that was so unconditional compared to this. No, I'm pretty certain. Advocate of the Beast. How many beasts are there? That's a really interesting question. And I think we need to see the whole set actually to evaluate the Advocate of the Beast. So I'm preliminary placing him on 6th to 8th pick level, and then you have to look for beasts. But that could change either going up or going down. Is this the overrun we get in this set? They didn't want an overrun, so we got enlarge. Well, it's not Lava Axe. It is conditional. It will remove a creature some of the time. Perhaps most of the time. How good is this? Nice design. I find it hard to judge at this time. I am thinking it's a 4th to 6th pick. but I'm absolutely not sure. I need to see games, hear reviews before I can really judge this card. But I'm gonna tell you that this Hydra is a lot worse than Primordial Hydra. Primordial Hydra won you the game if it wasn't stopped, and I don't think it was even a first pick in draft in M13 because you could kill it so easily. It was a first pick in Sealed, but in draft it was not, and this guy is just way worse. If you play him for 5, you may get 6 power out of this eventually, but you're getting a very unexciting 3/3 guy that might just have to jump block. What if you have 11 mana sometime? Then it's of course super cute. But even at 5 mana it's not above the curve. 6 mana getting a 4/4 and those extra 4/4 counters later. That seems appetizing. And that means play it for 6 or more mana if you can wait. And I'm putting it as a 4th to 6th pick. And I think this is a card which you'll be stuck with. You'll play it, think that it's awesome, and then somebody will just unsummon it and win. Hey! Scavenging Ooze! We've already rated that, didn't we? Yeah, we did. Scavenging Ooze is 35th pick because there won't be cards in the graveyard. Definitely not creature cards at the start of the game. So he will have to work his way up. And I'd rather play something that's already big. Chandra's Phoenix! Of course you're going to pick Scavenging Ooze, as he will be the money rare of the set. Chandra's Phoenix is a Windrake at worst. That's a pretty good start. But then, will Chandra's Phoenix come back for you? You have to do a red instant or sorcery. But if Chandra's Phoenix it obviously goes very well with the Outrage. At how many other red spells will damage your opponent? I think this could be a trap. In that it will make you play Lava Axe when you should not. Very good with Chandra's Outrage. But if you can make this come back just once and not give up anything for it, if you have to shock your opponent in the face to do it, then you're giving up a lot. But if you can do it with Chandra's Outrage, then it's just super good. But I don't think this is the first pick, because it will make you play your cards the wrong way in Limited. But I'll 2nd to 4th pick it, and I'll make a note that it could be a bomb, or at least a 1st to 3rd pick, but it's not the Archangel of Tune, is it? Garruk's Horde, 7/7 for a 7 mana for 7/7 trample. Well, we've seen that in M13, and that wasn't very exciting. Though there is more text on the card, so we gain some extra value there, which will make us happy. Doesn't seem to be a pack leader in the set. So this is what we get instead, and I would much rather have pack leader. Garruk's Horde. Thinking it's a third to fifth pick or lower, depending on how easy it is to get to 7 mana. Maybe the Sliver deck have killed you by the time, but I'm assuming it plays about at the same speed as M13, and this is a very, very big improvement on the Dusktail Worm. So, proceeding here. I think Predatory Sliver is the card that will make people go into Slivers. And if you have Sliver, you're first picking him all day. But pack one, pick one. What do you do when you see a Predatory Sliver? What did you do with a Muscle Sliver when it was around? Let's check out old limited reviews and see what people said. Muscle Sliver was from Tempest. I doubt there are decent Tempest review. Tempest limited review green. No, there were no. How high do you pick this guy? He's obviously a lot better than a bear, but how much better? Are you first picking Predator Sliver and then just going with the Sliver deck? Probably not. Is he on Trained Armadon level? Is he better than a Trained Armadon? Okay, I'm going out on a limb and saying that if you are seeing this guy first pack, first pick, you're not taking him. And he's a third to fifth pick. But the dynamic of the Slivers deck is so far unknown to me. So let's move to an easier card to evaluate. Train Condor. A 2-power flyer for 3, we like that. But he adds, he will give your 2/4 lifelink vigilance guy flying. And that sounds like a plan. I think this ability is strong. And I still think there is no good way except Flames of the Firebrand to kill 1 toughness creatures. But Flames of the Firebrand is out there. So this guy is probably worse than a Windrake. He should make. I think he's about the same as a Windrake. And that would put him as a third to fifth pick. And the blue-white Flyers deck, always a strong contender in Core Set Limited, looks much stronger in this set. There's obviously a Minotaur team in Theros. Minotaur Abomination. We learned in Dragon's Maze that a 4/6 for 5 is not too bad. But a 4/6 for 6 that costs 2 colon mana. It's not what you want to be doing, is it? I think it's a 7th to 9th pick, and I don't want this as my 23rd card. And you're probably suffering if you are... You're probably sad if you're playing this card. Slivers! The Vigilance Sliver is actually very important in the Slivers deck. And he's a bear to start with, so this is a high pick. And having Vigilance for all your Slivers is gonna do a world of difference. Just remember that the second one has a lot less value. Vigilance will help your slivers win races. And I'm picking this guy as a 4 to 6 pick. Maybe even higher. I think the slivers deck will be incredibly overdrafted at the start of M14, and then we'll see where it fits in. We had this effect, the +0, +1 thing at the 1 mana sliver, and that was okay in Pauper slivers. But here it looks very underwhelming. This is not an exciting body. Steel form sliver, but it does grant it to every sliver, so maybe this is about as playable as a bear. Not exciting, still a sliver, still gives everyone the bonus, about as pickable as a bear in the slivers deck. So I'm saying this is a card you will pick up if you're slivers, but you will not be excited about it. And striking sliver, giving everybody first strike is of course really good, but being a 1/1 is not good. In itself, striking sliver will not do much. So I'm like 8th to 10th picking him in slivers. Unplayable otherwise. So you will get this guy if you're playing slivers because nobody else wants him, so pick him late. I'm not excited about the 5/5 for 7. Trample is not an ability you want in your slivers. Of course you want it, but it's not going to be as good as First Strike or Vigilance. And you don't want to be paying 7 mana, because you've seen what the other decks will be doing at around that time. And they will not care that all your nasty slivers now have Trample. Way too expensive with too marginal an effect. And I think it's an 8th to 10th pick, and it's probably unplayable even in slivers. Because you want synergies, you want to win the game before Groundshake Sliver comes into play. Blur Sliver. Bad body. Haste. Yeah, that's good with your Groundshaker Sliver. Will help you win races, but you're not excited about this guy. He's of course better than the Sliver Construct. You will have to play him in slivers. So it's a 7th to 9th pick in slivers. He's a 2/2 haster, of course. Wait a minute. That makes him a 6th to 8th pick in slivers, and even playable in other decks. 10th pick in aggressive decks. The 2/2 haste guy that was in core set long ago was playable. I think Battle Sliver is really good, because you do want power for your slivers, and he comes into play as a 5/3 that helps out your team. Just Another Podcast thought he was a first pick. I doubt that. But maybe I'm just wrong. He dies to Chandra's Outrage, but he's strong. I'm gonna pick this guy as a 2nd to 4th pick. And maybe I will be wrong. Maybe this will be too expensive too for the slivers deck, but I don't think so. I think this is one of the better slivers. And maybe we are done. We are done. Together with the 2 episodes we've done before, we have reviewed all the 158 spoiled cards in Magic 2014. There will be more, 90 more to be exact. I'm sure they will be very interesting. And I'll be back to review them. Thank you for watching MagicGatheringStrat. This will be an article on MTGOstrat. It will also be a video on YouTube. Thanks.